That's really cool. This
I'm pretty
others.
sure this one is automated as well because
Really?
whenever I don't have to actually inform anyone about this. I just post it on Twitter and it gets automatically retweeted by the bot for the timeline, and then I don't know, it just magically pops up in in the timeline as well. I've never actually given information. I've never talked to the creator of this thing, but my events are in there every week, regardless of when I where or when I post it. It seems so. I find that really cool.
Not responding. There you go. Oh, welcome to Metaverse Degen. I'm Lion.
And I'm Tunity.
Thank you very much for joining us today. What is it you do here in the virtual world?
I run a club called the FishBowl. We've been doing this for almost 4 years now, way back before VRchat clubs really even blew up. We started doing this thing right here, and we've still been doing it.
Oh, wow. So how did this whole thing get started, Fishbowl, and how did you get in VR as well?
Well, for most people, I started really getting into VRchat during COVID in 2020 around March, when people weren't really doing anything in real life. I decided to look for some stuff to do online, look for some social aspects. Um, Started off as some fun drinking games with friends and drinking night to the lovely beats of Rob Roman's voice. But that slowly turned into something much more. It started with like 20 people, and I had a little Discord server set up for my Twitch channel called the Fishbowl. And I was like, why don't we just use my Discord server to meet up more often in here? And it just kind of kept growing and growing. Like every week we got like 100 members out of nowhere. And as we realized what was possible in these environments, we found out like about clubs like Club Cobalt, which were just open venues where you could play your music and stuff like that. We would just put YouTube links into there at first, and then we got our first DJ. And now, 4 years later, almost, we are at almost 2,500 members from the
Wow.
EU, doing weekly events still. We haven't really missed a beat. Well, not no longer weekly technically right now. We're on a little bit of a bi-weekly thing currently to get some stuff sorted for both an IRL event that we're going to be organizing again for the second
Oh,
time,
wow.
and just some bigger plans, a new map and stuff like that. So very excited to see that kind of stuff unpack. But
Cool.
yeah, I've just been kind of pushing this for 4 years and no breaks.
Absolutely nothing wrong with doing that if you enjoy what you do. What is you guys are doing IRL events now? That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah. We had our first sort of official IRL event in 2022. Yeah, in 2022 in the UK with a bunch of other clubs. It wasn't really organized by me though, so I don't really consider that a fishbowl event.
Hmm.
But we did meet up with like roughly 200 members from overall the VRChat community
Oh,
in
wow.
general, which is very cool in the United Kingdom. And now in 2023, we had our own official fishbowl event in the Netherlands, and that racked up roughly 70 people just coming in and partying with us, and the club was filled, so it was a really lovely time.
Cool.
Um, and now we're gonna do another one in 2024, and we're really looking forward to it.
Sounds really exciting. You guys are doing real life events. So is do you plan on having the fishbowl leak out of VRChat into its own existence or just events?
I just really like doing this kind of stuff. So maybe who knows if this keeps growing in real life as well as it does in VR. I am totally open to make Fishbowl a brand outside of the VR chat world on top of it and work with other festival organizations and stuff like that. I do have a past with festival organizations in real life where I did an internship for a while. So it's totally possible for me to leak it more into real life as well on top of the VR chat stuff. But that's all. We have to see how it goes, you know? It's not something that you can just shell all your money into and then hope for the best. Now you got to take it carefully.
That's a very valid point. You mentioned you did festival events organization in the past. Did any of your real life goings on help you here in the VR world?
It definitely helped me understand how you communicate with DJs and how stuff in the background works with these kinds of things. It's not as serious in VR chat, obviously, especially not in the start. Like right now in Fishbowl, it's not comparable to anything that I did at the internship, but it definitely does help, like knowing, okay, I need someone who is a lighting director. I need someone who, when I was making this map, for example, I need someone that knows how to position these lights professionally instead of just randomly putting these lights down and seeing what looks good. Now I want to have someone that actually knows what they're doing. And that's what you realize if you have done stuff like this in the past, like in real life, that you can't do it by yourself. You definitely need to get some people in there to deliver a high quality product usually.
That makes a lot of sense. I have heard similar things before. What kinds of things have you learned in this entire process of creating Fishbowl and running it?
Ooh, I mean, I really used Fishbowl a lot for my college stuff as well, which was graphic
Oh,
design focused. So I learned a lot about how graphic design, how people react to it. Like posters and stuff that I create are all made by me.
oh wow.
Both for the IRL event and the Fishbowl and VRchat events. Those are all just completely made by me, and I learned a lot from that. Just like how do people react to it? What is the best way to put stuff on there, especially in a VR environment where people are going to be looking at the posters way more than in real life? Like usually you will look at a poster for a festival in real life once, but if you're going to VRchat events, you definitely check them a lot more to see which DJ is playing when. So what information do you put on there? It's a very interesting thing because you just learn a new branch that's kind of not really developed yet in the festival scene because like you don't really have real VR festivals yet. There's definitely someone coming up, like but there's not really anything that's really been done that's super huge scale by a big company yet. So it's really cool to see like a branch expand, and that's like a learning process for everyone. Even for the big companies. Like you're not the first to interview me either. I've been interviewed by actual like companies that make millions a year that I just have to do with festival organization, that have to do with music development and stuff like that. It's very cool to learn how I kind of like how business is. I wasn't really that interested in like running a business, but now I actually own a business called the Fishbowl officially in my country just because of all of this, which is kind of crazy to me because I had no interest in doing this kind of stuff at all before I kind of got into this, you know? So, yeah.
So how did you lead it into a business? Like what was that process like for you going from a startup to a business?
So, it was just the VR chat stuff kind of kept growing and growing. At some point, I wanted to see what I could do with real life events. That's especially when I started to realize maybe I need to actually get this sort of with taxes and stuff like that. It will save a lot of money in general if you actually can tax deduct stuff for festivals because it gets expensive really fast. If you get the tax deducted and you get that money back, it's way better to organize because you can do way more than just spend the amount of money that people pay for tickets, obviously. But like the last IRL event is probably when I really decided, yeah, I should just sign this up as a business because if I don't do it, that's not going to work that well. It can work, it definitely can, but it's just a lot better to do it as a business. Comes over towards venues and stuff a lot more serious than just using your regular email and not having any, business numbers and stuff like that. It becomes way more accepting from those businesses that you need to talk to as well. So that's really only started when the IRL stuff came into play. Like VR, I never really thought about creating it into a business. It's not really necessary. You don't spend that much money. And if you do, it's usually not really tax deductible anyways.
That's a fair point. So how much interest is there from like the IRL world, those people you've talked to with the VR side of things?
Especially the venue that we used this last IRL event was very excited to see what we were doing. Like at first, we were a bit skeptical because we were just I'm just I'm just a 23-year-old kid that walks in there and tells them that there's going to be a bunch of people from all over the world suddenly who play virtual games and drink together in there. But slowly but surely they started getting more comfortable with the idea, and when the event actually happened, people were loving it. This bar staff was drinking along with the people. The music was not necessarily what they were used to, but they were completely jamming out on it. The bar owner actually came up to me multiple times in the night saying we would love to do this again immediately, like the same night already. So it's something that people at first are very skeptical about, but once they get it, like these people are just very kind and stuff like that, because that's usually the case with VRChat people. People are very kind and very accepting, and there's not really anything that can really go wrong usually at these kinds of events, argument wise and stuff. So it's really the businesses that you talk to. They will always be a bit skeptical at first, but they will love you in the long run. That's what I've learned so far.
Do you think there's a future for the two coexisting, the VR side of things and the IRL world?
I definitely think there is. For my next IRL event, I am planning on using a one-on-one scale of the actual real life venue in VRChat alongside with the IRL event, and having the DJs be streamed into VR so that the people who can't come, or they just don't have the money to fly over to the Netherlands or whatever, they can still enjoy the event but in a virtual space. Completely with like all the DMX lighting and stuff being linked up. That would probably be the closest thing that you can get to it really merging together, and that's our goal for this coming year. So
Oh wow.
I think there's a future in it, definitely.
Oh, that sounds super exciting. Will the two sides be linked at all, like through the DMX lighting and so on?
Yeah, that's kind of like the plan. If it's somehow possible that we can link the DMX lighting, would be awesome. But otherwise, I will just get a DMX artist to kind of try to mimic it a little bit. What's going on the stream. But the DJ's audio and stuff like that, that's the easiest thing to do, obviously, and that's really all you need. We also want to have some dancers possibly on both sides of the DJ booth in VR, and then stream those dancers into like a LED screen or projector in the actual real life venue as well. So you get some performance art on top of it too.
Oh wow, that sounds really unique and cool. Is that Would that be a hard thing to do, or would it be fairly simple on the real world side?
I'm still figuring it out, but I do know that other clubs like I think it was the VRchat Underground. I think let me see, Tube has done it as well, so it's definitely possible. It's not something that's way out of the picture. That's where I got the ideas from as well to do it, from seeing those, because it's really cool. They had it completely set up. You could just see the VRchat dancers next to the DJ booth, and that just adds an extra layer of connectivity, I feel like. So it's really, I think it's totally possible. It's not that hard, but I just got to figure it out.
That does that I could see how that would connect both worlds pretty well, because I remember hearing a while ago of a club in real life that has a VR counterpart, and you can see in the sidewall screens from both sides. You see a real world and then vice versa. I think it's a UK-based club, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah, that might be. The UK scene is pretty well, forward already in that kind of stuff. From what I've been able to tell, like Tube is a really good example of it. Again, they really know what they're doing, especially with everything like merchandise and like the IRL events that they do. It's definitely the UK is one of the main places to be in if you want to have some real life stuff going on, especially when it comes to VR chat events.
Oh, really? What kinds of things go on over there? Because honestly, I'm a little dumb in terms of the UK events and stuff.
I mean, you have the real life stuff from the clubs that already exist, obviously, but you got like well, in the EU at least, drum and bass is very popular in VR chat, and a lot of the drum and bass festivals and artists are based in the UK. So it's really a nice place to go if you want to meet a lot of people from VR chat all at once in general. If it's just at a festival that's not to do with VR chat, or at an event that is to do with VR, it's a really good place, the UK.
That's really awesome to hear. So do you think VR chat events is bigger in UK versus other countries?
It is spreading a bit, but there are definitely more in the UK. Yeah, but those people are slowly spreading, like I am, to the Netherlands. You've got one that happened a couple of weeks ago in Belgium as well. You got some that happen in France now, but the most that I've heard are still definitely in the UK. Yeah.
Hmm. That's that's actually pretty awesome that we got VR chat leaking out into the real world like that. It brings me a lot
It's
of
really
joy.
cool.
Mm,
Yeah, it's awesome because, as I said, people are so kind. It's a different kind of crowd. It's definitely a different group of people that you can just meet in these events that you are used to at if you go to clubbing and stuff in real life. Which I don't necessarily think a lot of people are used to that in VRChat either, like going out and clubbing. Like a lot of people in here are in VRChat with a reason because whatever, like social anxiety or things like that. They aren't used to
mm,
actually going into like clubs real life. But that makes it like such a nice way for people to get their social skills up, social friend groups and stuff like that. Meeting people from VRChat is one of the nicest things that I've ever done. Like I've
mm,
been people are so thankful whenever I meet them as well. Like for the IRL event that I had last time, like the amount of hands that I have shook, hugs that I've gotten from people that I met in real life for the first time that day, as a thank you for just organizing an event like that, is just absurd. And you don't really see that often if you just go anywhere else than a VR chat related thing. It seems.
mm. I've never done a whole lot any VR chat real life events, but I have noticed the exact same thing with the VR chat culture. It is a very kind and structured pace. When I first started in VR chat, I had a very kind of black pillish view of the world, but when I came into VR, the entire culture of kindness kind of shocked me out of that mindset personally, and it's amazing to see how things are here.
Yeah, VR chat is a really good way to get rid of your social anxiety or your like as you said, like your black pill view of the world where everything is just
Mm,
not worth it, but it's so much worth it once you really get to know people and you go out and just hang with the most lovely people that you meet on here. It makes such a difference. For me, it made a very big difference. Like I used to be a very socially awkward person before this, even though I worked in festival organization. I was very still in my bubble and stuff. But as soon as I started playing VR chat for 2 years, now people are surprised when I tell them that I have social anxiety attacks here and there. They're like, "Wait, what do you mean you're having a social anxiety attack? You're Tunity. Come on." like, like I don't know. I This is just who I am. I can't help it. Sometimes it happens.
mm. I could never have told you were like that before from sitting down meeting with you. Now you seem like a very outgoing person.
Oh, I hear that all the time, but you should have seen me in like begin 2020, 2019. I was a social wreck when it came to that kind of stuff. I was so nervous about everything. But that's again, like that's what VR chat does. It's really magical what this game can do for you. And I
Mm,
don't think people really, realize that half the time, like how much good this game does for you as well in the long term. And I
mm,
think that everyone should kind of like look at that sometimes as well. Like look at who you were when you first started with VR chat and compare that to how you are now, especially when it comes in regards to how you talk to people, how you interact with people. Um, it definitely has to do with what kind of a community that it is. You've got
mm,
people from all over the world, first of all, from all you've got people from all over the gender spectrum and stuff. You've got people from all of every single kind of sexuality that you can imagine, and it's lovely. Everyone is so good with each other. They're so
mm,
respectful and things. And if someone is not respectful, people will let them know. Cut it out,
mm,
like it's kind of like a safe space for everyone. And if it's not, you can create your own safe space. And
mm.
that's the best thing about it. Like if you don't vibe with fishbowl, for example, you can make your own. Make your own little fishbowl, basically. You
Mm,
can create your own whatever you feel comfortable with,
mm.
and that's beautiful in my opinion.
It is very beautiful. I also noticed about the VRChat community is they're very quick and willing to help you with whatever you need. You want to get into world making or doing music, someone will be like, "Yeah, here's your steps to start," and then they'll either be your friend or disappear off into the ether. It's great.
Exactly. Yeah, it's super awesome.
Mm, it is.
5 minute conversation can turn into a 4 year long friendship. Like,
Mm.
it's crazy.
It is. It's very crazy. I've also found it hard, like when I'm trying to talk about what I do here outside and how awesome it is. It's like trying, it's like, it's really hard to explain to people that you're having a beer with a Patrick and a tricked out SpongeBob and having philosophical conversations in a rave club called Fishbowl. It's a really hard thing for a lot of people who haven't here to like grasp that exists.
I still struggle. Like, I show people clips like, oh, look, this was what I did this last weekend, and they were like, oh, but I was at a bar or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I was as well. I was with 70 people, and I showed them a clip of whatever was happening here from a DJ stream, for example, and they just look at it and they're like, okay, so you feel like you're there. I'm like, yeah, well, you have those the whole thing on. You can move your legs, you can move everything. Like, people need to try it to understand it. VR is a very very hard to grasp for people that haven't really tried it yet, obviously. But I think slowly but surely it's going to be more comfortable to talk about, especially now with the Meta Quest 3 kind of becoming really popular, even in just regular media and things. But outside of gaming, I think mixed reality is going to really make a step towards getting VR more accepted in the community as a general for a social thing.
I have seen some really cool, with the Quest 3 coming out, mixed reality things. Like, I think some video involving Tube did a thing where you saw an
Tube
event.
has a map. Yeah, Tube has one of their maps. You can turn on like a AR mode, I suppose, a MX mode, where it like cuts out only, like, everything goes like a green screen pretty much, and you only see the lights, the DJ booth, and the people walking around. But besides, it's just your bedroom or whatever. It was pretty cool to see. Yeah, it just like mixes very well. But it still has a long way to go in general, in my opinion, mixed reality. But it's pretty cool to see already, like, people implementing it into VR like that.
I've noticed Vrchat has always been really quick to adopt the new things, whatever it may be. AR, new tech like haptic shirts, face tracking. It's like one of the first platforms I've noticed to like implement it as quickly as it can. And it's one of the only VR platforms where you can see everything in action in junction with each other, such as like you can go to Tuber with face tracking and everything else while wearing augmented reality, everything, and it all works in unison. It's kind of sick, to be honest. That's my opinion of it all.
It's really awesome. Like, over those 4 years almost that I've been on this game, when I first started, maps used to look very bad in my opinion. But back then it looked good. It was like, whoa, you can make your own maps, and it was nothing too fancy. But over the years, you go from very basic maps to full-on horror games that are now completely codable in Udon. That's completely different from what it was in 2020. Like, the only lighting that we had in 2020, for example, was pre-animated like gobos, like up here, but none of it was audio reactive or like anything related to the DJ, like, let alone that you even would have a DJ a lot of the time in some of the clubs that you went to. Sometimes it was just YouTube links getting put into the video player. But this all like moved within these years. You go from low quality to super high quality, and it just keeps moving up and up. Especially when you compare to maps like Sanctum and Shelter, that are very much organized with teams that are just huge, and it takes months to prepare for stuff like that, but it definitely pays off, especially if you have ever attended, for example, Sanctum from the start. I did it for the first time this weekend. People don't believe I did, because I've been on this game for so long. This was the first time I went to Sanctum, especially from the start. But just the experience from entering one of those venues that are like super overly produced and stuff like that, just from entering it, walking to the DJ area, is a complete experience to start off with. It's not just walk from point A to point B. You have animations, you have sounds, you have a full feeling like you're actually part of something unique that you can't really experience in real life. Like, I can't build a submarine in real life, for example, either, to party in like this. It's impossible. I can't make jellyfish react to the music if I wanted to, but here we are in VR doing it. And I think it opens up a lot of shit for, profanity. I don't know if that's allowed in the podcast.
Swear away. Be yourself. That's all I ask of people.
No, it's a lot of shit that's going to be coming out, especially with the new Unity 2022 we're switching to. I think we're 2020. I'm not really
I
sure.
think we're in 2023
But we're
already.
switching.
We're in it now, I believe.
Oh, are we now?
I believe
Oh,
so.
I thought they were still working on it, but yeah, since we're gonna be moving Unity versions, that also opens up a lot of new things every single time, especially because performance becomes better and better slowly. Like 2020, if you wanted to build something like this, you could not have more than 20 people in a singular room before everyone started crashing, no matter what the avatar was.
Mm.
But yeah, as you said, like it's moving so fast, and VR jumps on stuff as soon as it comes out. Like as soon as anything gets released, these new trackers, for example, from Vive that are coming out, I bet that within 2 or 3 days, people are gonna have figured out some way to do something crazy with them in VR chat. Like I'm sure they will.
Guaranteed. That, and I think Meta, the company, is also listening. For example, when you go look at the Quest 3 Pro coming out, it's got face tracking. It's one of the few headsets that will come natively with it that's still they'll be running, I guess is a way to put it. There's the Vive Eye Pro, but it's been discontinued, I think.
Yeah, I was looking for the Vive Pro Eye for a while to see if I could get the eye tracking in, but no, they're no longer sold. But I feel like we are about to get on like the edge of more VR headsets. If you look at how Steam VR is getting updated with some references to possibly the Deckard that Valve has been talking about. I think we are like on an edge of a new generation of VR headsets, and I don't think we know what's coming yet. I think there's going to be some genuinely really cool stuff that is going to be implemented into these new headsets that we haven't seen before, that we can use for VR chat especially. But even without like these headsets getting updates, you have peripherals that you can buy, like haptic suits. You can buy haptic face gaskets these days, even where people touch your face, you feel it. I have a thing called a Wooger vest, which just replicates the bass from a venue like this in VR. It will take the bass audio line, and it will make it feel like I'm actually in a club, like with the speakers bouncing off of like my body, like the actual bass I will feel, and it makes for such a good immersion. The more you get immersed, like the better these clubs even become, obviously, and that's the beauty of it. Like companies are working on it, even if the main line like Meta or Valve and stuff are not doing anything. You have these companies that are making things for VR. Like a good example is also EOS VR, the track straps that are being made by them. I really love them. They are super interactive with the community. The guy who made it even follows me on Twitter, for example. I have never actually interacted with him or anything, but he's totally seems to be down to always reply to your messages and questions about all these products and willing to improve upon it. For example, these still use Velcro, but he got requests on Twitter for them to use clips instead of Velcro for the future ones. He releases a new version within, I think, 2 months even, with clips on it. And you can buy them right now. And people ask for a mat, like a play-space mat. He develops it, and it's getting sold. It's all purely VR chat people almost that request this stuff, but he's so communicative with all these people, and that's lovely to see. Like that these companies are willing to listen to like a community that's basically just one game.
Well, to be honest, VRChat's more than a single game now. There's so much stuff being developed. It feels just like the
You're
closest thing to what we can get to a modern day metaverse, quote unquote, whatever you want to call it. These, you got clubs, you got games, you got worlds galore, avatars galore, whatever you can dream of, think of. You just got to search for it and you can find it. Communities, roleplay communities.
I always say Second Life walked so that VR chat could run. Second Life was definitely the first step into this direction of online metaversing and like customizing avatars, coding your own worlds and stuff. And we are slowly getting VR chat to be exactly like Second Life is nowadays. And that's really exciting because if you compare like how Second Life was years and years ago and how they've improved and how crazy you can really get in that game now, I'm very excited to see what VR chat is going to be able to pull off in, let's say, 2-3 years already. Especially with the updates that they've been bringing out recently.
So I take it you played Second Life then?
for a very short period.
Okay.
But I know what it's like. I've definitely like dabbled in like custom stuff in Second Life with people. Not anything that I created myself. I was pretty young when I played it. I don't think I'm allowed to say how old because otherwise I might get in trouble. But uh, but I was rather young. But I learned a lot like about how those worlds were like put together. It's a very complicated game if you really look at it from just an outsider's perspective, but like it's really crazy what you can do in it. Like custom UI, avatars that basically don't even adhere to the rules of an entire world that you're in and just make magic happen in front of you and stuff like that. That's kind of crazy.
Mm.
And we're slowly getting there with Vrchat as well. I even saw someone that made a asset where you were able to spawn in a grenade launcher that shot out like the Yippee meme, the little
Yep.
animal. I don't know what to call it. Like you just shot it out of there, and you can actually like physically grab it. Like that kind of stuff is really cool, and that's like something that was impossible a year ago in VRChat already.
Mm.
Like, what are we gonna be getting into in the future? I feel like it's gonna be quite crazy.
Mm. I feel like once COVID hit and people started flooding in here, I feel like VRChat started to exponentially grow, and it feels like it was
Yeah,
was almost instantaneous.
I think a combination of at that time streamers being very active in VR chat. I remember Soda Poppin and Rafflegator. I think he still is in VR chat these days. Even he wasn't necessarily a VR chat YouTuber before that. I'm pretty sure, but that's really when it started to like really pop up on Twitch on front page even because of these streamers. And then COVID hit right that second. I think it was a very optimal time for well, not optimal, but for COVID to hit, it was very the right time to do so because the social game was in the spotlights at that moment. I think if that wasn't the case, that it was at the top of Twitch at the time, that I don't think a lot of people would have actually thought of jumping into VR chat in the first place. I think it was a really good timing.
Mm, it's perfect timing. I've from like natural talking with people like out and about in public worlds. You hear a lot of people come in here because of COVID, and a lot of them will reference Rafflegator, the Ugandan Knuckles memes is why they got in here.
Ugana Knuckles, yep.
Yep, all of that stuff. And
Yeah, but it was the perfect timing. Perfect timing.
mm, so since you started like this around the time COVID started kicking off, what has it been like from your perspective with like the growing COVID crowd?
um, I think most of the COVID crowd, of the people that really purely got in because of COVID, kind of are gone at this point. A lot of people that are here are either long-term players or people that started playing pretty recently because of the Quest 2 release or the Quest 3 release nowadays even. But I have realized that a lot of the people that I knew because from the COVID period already don't really play anymore.
Mm.
There's definitely some people that are still on, but those are like the hardcore players. But a lot of people from the COVID period that I knew, they left. Like a lot of that crowd is gone.
Oh,
And most of the crowd that I see nowadays in Fishbowl is not necessarily a COVID one anymore, but like one that's like in between. Not really from the
mm,
first COVID wave, but not really from the second either, but like in a really awkward in between.
mm,
Um, but there's definitely a lot of people that have benefited during the COVID period off of this that are
mm,
half stuck around. Just not as many as you would think.
mm. Well, it seems like since COVID, the crowds here grew quite a bit, even if they're not around because of the massive growth. I think a lot of people told their friends about it. Oh,
Yeah,
hey, you don't have to be in your house anymore. You can be in a virtual fishbowl raving with other people, and like, wow, I want to go too. And it's at least it spread like
it,
as you said with streamers, it spread quickly.
word of mouth is a very powerful thing. That's for sure.
Mm,
Like the amount of people that I have convinced to get into this game at least once and have stuck around in this period as well is just insane.
mm,
Um, again, it's just a beautiful community. It's very welcoming. You don't really feel like you're out of your place at all if you join it for the first time. I can bring people to the fishbowl for the first time, and I can point at least 5 groups of people that I can just pull this person into and say either cheers or be like, hey guys, this is my friend, and they will get welcomed and they will get told, yo, where are you from? Like full on conversations just start happening without
Mm,
any effort. And so I think that's definitely why it's so still growing to this point, like
mm,
with new people every day.
mm.
Like I've been seeing a recent surge of like new users and stuff like that as well. I feel like we're getting into like another rise of members slowly, especially in the European scene. I don't know how it is in the US, but
Mm. There is, from my scene in the US, there's quite a bit of people coming in from the US, and a lot of them are referencing videos they've seen, maybe a streamer or two, some VTubers, and I think the crowd, the entertainment side of VR chat is really spreading the word of mouth a lot, regardless of where you live. Like now, you got people such as yourself now doing real life shows. You're gonna get guaranteed some rave goer or a festival goer is gonna go. It's like, what, you can go this in VR and they'll go right with you, and all of this stuff happening at once, I think, is only going to progress this further. I'd say probably this Christmas is going to be wild.
oh yeah, Christmas is always wild. It has been for the past 4 years.
Mm.
Christmas is definitely the period of time where you're gonna notice the most new players, but also sadly the most new children in every lobby that you gotta
Yeah.
watch out for. But that always like passes within the first 2 to 3 months. Like the kids will be like, "Oh, that's a cool game," and then they go back to Gorilla Tag or whatever.
Mm.
Uh, but also, I think, as you said, VTubers are also a very big influence on us, I think,
Mm.
because a lot of VTubers don't really use VTubing software anymore. They just hop into VRChat for full body tracking and stuff and start
Mm.
streaming on that. Fillion, I think, is a very good example of that. Like, they're
Mm.
not necessarily a VRChat streamer, but they are a VTuber that use VRChat to portray their character and, like, kind of just do random shit here and there, backflips and stuff. Like, it's not VRChat content, but people get to know about VRChat because of it, and they might get interested.
Mm.
But also on TikTok, the amount of times that even friends of mine just scroll by VR chat content, like streams of I don't know what their name is. There's like this little otter guy that streams pretty much daily on TikTok.
Mm.
That I just see on my friends for you page that has nothing to do with gaming or VR chat or anything at all, but they still see VR chat content, even if they are subconscious about it. Like
Mm.
that it's not even VR related. It's something that's just spreading into the general social structure without really having to be focused on a VR headset or anything like that. It's just
Mm.
content and that people want to experience and be part of.
Mm.
It's the same as joining a Minecraft server, for example, because a Minecraft YouTuber joins on there. Like, I want to play VR chat because I want to meet X and Y YouTuber that plays on there.
Mm. It's I'm glad to see that there's the content's getting out further, because I personally do greatly enjoy this game. It's done wonders for me, and I'm glad to see so much going on here. VTubers, clubs, and now what I've seen, I'm starting to see a small trend where VR chat's kind of leaking as what you're doing into the real world to a degree as well. And I can only imagine what is going to look like in 3 years, but it's going to be dope.
Oh yeah. I think we're in for something. Like we are definitely in for something. Like we have proper festival quality DJs like hopping into VR chat, for example, as well, that are just spreading the word. Muzz with his Sanctum is something that is just insane with how much that is getting publicity, not just in VR but in real life as well.
Mm.
I there was a event for Monster Cat at Amsterdam Dance Event this last week where Muzz was DJing, and the amount of people that I knew that were just going there from VR chat to dance in a crowd of possibly people that have never heard of it is just,
Mm.
you know, like it's mixing into just regular festivals because DJs are getting into VR chat, and that's just crazy. And I remember when Muzz first like entered VR chat, like it was just a really careful thing at first because he was just kind of looking around maps. Muzz has been in Fishbowl multiple times as well. We were one of the clubs that he checked out initially to see if it was really worth it to get into VR chat.
Mm.
And then suddenly he built his own basic empire in this game with Sanctum and some of the best organized events that I've seen yet in the entire VR chat community. And that's only possible if someone like that steps into a scene like this. Because without not necessarily the funds, but the people that are willing to help you out and like support you, and people like an actual producing team and things like that, it is kind of hard to deliver a higher quality product than something like Fishbowl or Slyfest and things like that. You can't really take that extra step further without having some form of funding or being a little bit famous and being able to organize real life events that are just way out of scale of all the other things that have been done. But that's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all that this is like a thing where we have these clubs that are more funded than others to bring better events here and there, because it makes people like me want to do even better and get on top of the game. It gives us ideas on what we can do that we probably wouldn't have thought of if these clubs didn't exist or these events didn't exist. So it's a very nice, like, I don't know, it's a very nice movement in the VRchat community currently, where we are getting bigger and bigger people to just check it out at least. Before we know it, we'll have one of those Fortnite concerts like Marshmello did in VRchat that's fully produced for millions and millions of dollars or whatever,
Who knows? Well, at least with people,
and it sort of already happens at a New Year's, like a New Year's Eve. Sometimes VRchat has some really big stuff going on, like a full crazy map that's been produced over the entire year. That kind of stuff, like that's already VRchat already reaching out to the general community and DJs and artists and stuff to work with them. So who knows what they're planning in the future?
I hope we get more people like that from like Muzz's world in here, because I think it adds some, I guess, competition in a sense that will push VRchat, as you said, further.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I think people are also like kind of scared to monetize their club a lot of times, and that's where like the thing with seeing that a club, if it gets monetized a bit, that it can do even better, it might make people more comfortable. I'm still very hesitant of posting my Patreon, for example, in my Discord and stuff like that, but when I do, people are very much willing to give some money here and there and help out. And that makes this club better every single time. It helps me out with the real life organization and stuff. Like, granted, it's not enough for me to run the entire thing. I definitely still put money in it from myself, but it helps. It really helps to like see that people are willing to, give to help out, instead of just, taking all these events and not really saying a thank you and stuff like that. It's just nice to see that the community is willing to work with you to make clubs better, especially when they see bigger events like Sanctum and things like that.
So why do you think within the VRchat clubbing community there's some hesitation to monetize?
It's because there wasn't really monetization before. I feel like it's always been community run. It's always been just friends organizing these events for fun and things like that. But what people need to realize is that like we do have a job in real life, a lot of us, and other things that we need to do. This does take a lot of time, and I don't think people realize that sometimes how much work goes into organizing these kinds of events. And oftentimes when I do see things posted with monetization, there is a little bit of backlash, not necessarily in people's face, but you will definitely see people like, they're asking money for it now. I don't know about that. I've had this personally happen to me, where I had some complaints where when I posted my Patreon, people got upset about it. They were like, I don't really like the fact that VRchat is getting monetized. I would like it to stay community run, volunteer work and stuff like that. I don't like money getting involved into it. But it's kind of inevitable. It's a little bit inevitable at this point that there's going to be money involved in most of these things. And it's not a bad thing. As long as the money gets used for the right things, I don't see an issue with it. As long as the money gets put right back into the community, I don't have a problem with it from anyone. But it's people just, I don't know. I think it's a trust thing. It's definitely a trust thing. and just people being accustomed to what it was like before in VRchat, where it didn't take that much effort to put a YouTube link into a video player. But that's definitely changed. It's definitely been a very long road to get here, but it's definitely changed into a place where monetization is gonna be a thing that is not really something we can avoid. Because as much as I love doing this, if I had to put hundreds and hundreds of euros of my own money into this every single month and I got like no genuine thank you or like anyway where, you know, people seem appreciative, I would kind of be like, it's not really doing anything, you know? It's as much as people love the events, I don't feel like people are thankful to the point where they want to support and help out, I suppose. But that's where the monetization, like, kind of people are scared of it because it's a step. It's money. It's some people don't like money getting into their social fun space, I suppose. Like it's not as serious for a lot of people, and people don't take it as seriously. And they sometimes just don't realize, as I said, like how much work goes into it. It's a very difficult topic to talk about, though, because everyone has a very different opinion about it, and everyone has a very different view of how you should monetize these kinds of events. And the one person will say sell tickets for larger events. Other people will say don't ever lock a world behind tickets because that's absurd and that's just not morally correct. And you're going to have these arguments more and more in the coming years, I feel like, as well. Especially if Vrchat decides to put a market onto their game like they were planning on doing, where you can buy avatars in-game instead of having to go through Gumroad and things like that. I think that's going to cause a lot of discussion, but I think we are just getting on the edge of it slowly getting accepted more and more. It was definitely a lot worse back when I first started, when if people wanted to put a Patreon, even on drinking night, for example, Patreon wasn't even a thing there for a long while. And when it did start, it was like, I don't know, you know, it's a sensitive topic, I suppose, in VR.
At least I've noticed with like world creators and avatar creators, supporting them within the VRchat community is a lot more accepted now. Like among my friend groups, I've heard very frequently, if I ever see an avatar I like, I want to support the creator. And a lot of people just reach out and give to their Patreon. Maybe they'll buy the base directly from them. And it's, I say, at least in that portion of VRchat monetization, it's becoming a lot more accepted. So there's that.
Yeah. That's the same with Second Life. Like again, it's almost a one-on-one with Second Life on how that, like when they first implemented the money system into Second Life, where you could buy avatars directly from people, where you could buy plots of land in people's worlds, for example, with real money. That's when how it slowly started to get in there. At first, people were like, "Ooh, spending money on digital pixels." That's usually the argument, right? It's just something digital. But this is stuff that people put hours and hours of work into, which is, and me as someone with an art degree who has learned about how much work goes into like actually developing something, and like how sensitive it is to talk about copyright and asking money for your art. Like that same thing just happens in VR and in any other space. People are slow, like as you said, people are accepting it more and more, like to pay for avatars, but there's still definitely the people that are fighting against it with the whole Ripper Star fiasco that you have, which is kind of hard to get rid of as well. Like even AAA studios struggle to make their avatars or their models encrypted enough to never get ripped out of the game. So I don't really think it's something that we can very easily fix, but we should just probably not really mention those websites, and I think that's the best way to go at it for now. Just if it exists, just don't talk about it, because if you talk about it, like specific names and stuff like that, people are going to look it up, and that's how it spreads more and more and more and more. And if someone does mention something like those websites to you, don't hesitate to just tell them fuck off and block them, because it's a not very morally right thing to do. You're grabbing people's hard-earned money, pretty much, something that they stuck hours and hours into, regardless of what you think is work. It's something that someone is presenting as a product to you, and you're taking it from them. And that kind of really, it's just really rude. And then no matter what you look at, what way you look at it, if you decide that it's okay to do something like that to someone that might be one of the kindest people you will ever meet, then that's just you being morally wrong in that case, no matter how your view is on if an avatar is too expensive or whatever.
Mm.
You're kind of just screwing a person over at that point.
Mm. I think once VRChat allows people to buy and moderate their own avatars in game, I have a feeling that places like Ripper Store is going to see a decrease in their ability to send out product or whatever it is they're doing. Because, as I said earlier, a lot of people want to support their creators. Why would you want to go to an outside source for an avatar when you can just run to a world, pay $5, get access to the world's avatars, and then use them within some special category? Because I think that may or I think that may put a good hit towards those places because you're looking towards convenience and then installing your own avatar at that point.
Yeah, that's definitely also like a thing. You will notice a lot of the ripped avatars are clonable and stuff because of the sole reason that people just don't know how to upload avatars when they do this kind of stuff. Like, they're like, oh, my friend uploaded it for me, this and that. Like, it's usually that like extra step that it took to upload or edit an avatar in Unity that is stopping a lot of these people from actually going to Gumroad and buying an avatar instead of, just like grabbing it off of their friend that uploaded it for them. A lot of times they don't even know it's ripped, for example, either. Like they just like told their friend like, hey, I really like that avatar. Can I have it? Can I have it? And they were like, yeah, sure, I'll upload it for you. And that's it. So, but it's again like so many different sides of it that that's like the issue with a big community like VRChat. You have so many different sides of how these things function and how people look at it and how people talk about it even. That makes it very hard to really pinpoint where the problem is and what kind of people are the problem. But yeah, VRChat implementing like a store in some regard will definitely change a lot. But it is also going to cause a bit of a I think imbalance in people's opinions again, because that's what people love to do. I found out towards the VRChat developers, they like to be very critical about everything that they do. But I personally think that they're doing a good enough job. They can definitely do better in some parts, and I'm pretty sure that they will. I think they get a lot of slack for things that they are working their best on, and trying to make the best situation for everyone instead of catering towards one specific group, which I've learned is very hard to do, is making everyone happy. And that's definitely the most impossible thing you can do, is keeping everyone happy. And even I need to learn that. And there's always going to be a vocal minority that is going to be mad about something, I always say. Vocal minority is a very big thing that people don't realize. Like, you can see people get mad on Twitter about a certain topic, but it might not even be 10% of the actual people that are interacting with it, So I do think like having a store is going to be definitely a big thing, like you said. And I'm curious if they can move it into worlds and stuff like that as well. Like if you can, as I said, pay for access to a world at some point. If it's like a festival or whatever, you pay $5 and you can enter the festival during that period. And then after that, the world is just free to open and explore permanently on your account.
From my understanding, when I was reading the creator economy update that they're trying to roll out, it does seem that through VRChat groups you'll be able to monetize to some degree. You be the group owner will decide what levels there are. You'd be able to encode access to like certain worlds, maybe certain portions of worlds, avatars, VRChat roles within the group. Because I don't know how much you've messed around with the VRChat groups, but you can give different group access and stuff. And I think that once creator economy comes out, I think you're going to see VRChat start testing the waters, and especially a lot of the communities like avatar builders, for example, or world builders. Like you'll still see paid access in like Just Be Club, for example. There's that big suite room in the back you can go to if you pay access to, and things like that, instead of being outsourced to Patreon. will be sourced here. And I think
Yeah.
that's very important for VRChat because there's a lot of third party companies like Booth, and then
Mm.
there's Gumroad and Patreon that is taking a little bit of money that people go to regularly for like avatars, worlds, assets, what say you, and having that store here, at least you'll know the money's going to VRChat to create whatever they're doing.
Yeah, that is a very good point. But I think that maybe the possibility of working together with Discord's new monetization system is also a very good way of maybe they can do it. Where because you have most of the clubs run on VRChat in combination with Discord, because it's always going to be Discord is always going to be a place where people will get together in a community. Even though they update the VRChat groups to any regard, there's always going to be Discord on the side. I don't think that's ever going to change. And I think if they can somehow implement the monetization that Discord is implementing, similar to how Patreon does it, into VRChat, like you buy a role in the Discord, but you get it in VRChat as well, in the group or whatever, all these features, I think that could work pretty well as well, as a start, for example. But that's, I don't know. We'll have to see what they're planning on doing in that regard. I'm looking into the Discord monetization thing currently to at least make it a bit easier to find a place where you can support Fishbowl, because right now it's just you have to know that we have a Patreon to really check it out. And I don't like plastering it on the walls either. So it's kind of like, how are you gonna do it? If it's in Discord and you just open the server and you see it automatically, it's a whole different thing than me putting on the wall, support us on Patreon or whatever, of course. It's a way more casual experience, I would say.
So what's the Discord monetization like? Because I haven't really played around with it at all. I haven't taken a look at that much into it.
I think it's out in the US for a while now. It's coming slowly to the EU. It's basically the same as Patreon. You can make different tiers that you can subscribe to per month, and that gives you access to specific channels, roles. You can link it to certain games and stuff as well already, I'm pretty sure. It's basically just like Patreon, but built into Discord instead of it having to be outsourced to another website. It looks pretty clean in my opinion. I'm pretty sure they're moving it to Europe now, but not all countries, because in the Netherlands where I live, I can't get it yet. But I'm pretty sure there are already some VRChat communities that are using it, and it seems to be working pretty well.
What do you mean by different communities using it? How is it incorporated? I'm just out of sheer curiosity. Asking out of curiosity.
I'm pretty sure it was a lap dance club where I saw it last time. So it was, you got access to, I'm pretty sure, some exclusive content of certain dancers, for example, or you got an extra VIP dance in the middle of it. But it's basically the same as what you can get on Patreon a lot of times now, as I said. But it's just integrated into Discord way nicer. It's a central hub for the community at that point. And instead of having like have a separate link and set up roles through that, and sometimes that doesn't even work. Like I've had times where people get a Patreon subscription, but they don't get a role automatically, and I have to fix that again. If it's all in Discord, you can make it just so much nicer. But I think they give you early access to, you get a specific role that gets pinged like 15 minutes earlier than regular users, so you can get into the lobby earlier, and you're guaranteed a spot before it gets full, for example. It all just makes it a lot easier, I feel like, to run it like in a one central hub instead of on 3 different websites, in combination with the fact that you have to buy on another one to get a better avatars. I think having like a central base is a really good place to start with this kind of stuff.
As I would like to see VRChat do some partnership with Discord, especially like having like in-game access to some messaging system with your friends, other than like sending.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah. Back when the modding community was still a thing, there were certain mods that actually allowed you to private message people in VRChat. Like just with a little keyboard that you could spawn, and you would just message them, and it would pop up on their VRChat screen instead of it just being a invite that you have to like manually change the message of and stuff like that. It was just a keyboard where you could actually message people. That was back when modding was still a thing. So maybe that will sometime come to VR chat still. I'm pretty sure that they are probably thinking of something like that because they did say a lot of the features that were prominent in modding, like the mirror, for example, that you can spawn in, accessibility modes, earmuff mode, and stuff like that. It's all from modding community originally, and they implemented that rather fast at the time because those were the main things that people were using.
Mm.
But now they kind of slowed it down, so maybe we'll see a chat like pop up pretty soon.
Mm. Well, at least as you said with the Discord monetization, as well as like Discord's entire shtick and how much VR chat uses Discord for everything, whether it's fishbowl, dance clubs, or even regular communities, like Ancients of VR chat, like everything's in
Hmm.
Discord, and having some access to it in VR may be of benefit because not
Would be
everyone
pretty
has
good. Yeah.
OVR or excess overlay.
Yeah, I think Discord is a very big part, as you said, of the like VRT community in general. Like we like how do you measure how big a club really is? Usually you look at how many people are in the Discord server. You don't really check the groups for the group count. Like you can't really compare that well at this point. But you usually look at like how many people are in that Discord server. Oh, Fishbowl has 2,500. These others have like 4,000 and whatever. That's how you know those clubs are the bigger ones, and then you have some that have like under 1,000. You're not, oh, that probably is a club that's still starting, and I'm gonna check it out and stuff like that. That's usually how I measure it, at least, and I think a lot of people do. Like
Hmm.
that's how you kind of can tell like how big a club really is,
Oh.
because I don't know. I don't even know how many members we have in the Fishbowl group in VR. Oh, 899. That's actually not too shabby. I was kind of surprised seeing that, but no, but like, see, like, I didn't even know that, for example, and I wouldn't really measure like the actual size of my community through the VR chat groups just yet. And I don't think that's gonna happen very fast for most of the communities that are at least established already.
Mm. Well, I think VR chat groups, if like it is as of now, I see it being utilized quite a bit, especially in like public instances of like the Black Hat
Hmm.
or whatever. You'll see
Yeah.
different groups and communities moderating instances, and I think that's a really good feature they added to groups.
Oh,
Of
definitely.
mm, I can only imagine how useful it is in what you
Yeah.
do.
Oh yeah, no, we like being able to have people kick people without them being the instance owner like it used to be. There used to only be one person in the entire lobby that was able to kick or warn or whatever people. So if you were hosting an event and you were not even the creator of the world and you crashed, and then the next person who joined becomes the instance owner, you were kind of just screwed at that point. If someone
Mm.
like did something bad or whatever, you had to run over to this member that didn't even actually have anything to do with the organization and tell them, hey, can you warn slash kick this person? They're being obnoxious. And that was always a hassle. But
Mm.
also with video players and stuff like that, back then, if you were the instance owner, you were the only person who was able to unlock video players and stuff. But
Mm.
luckily now with Udon and like combination with groups and stuff like that, you can actually just have all the staff members have access to the video player, without, having any issues where people might join or leave and stuff. People can just come and go and hang out wherever they want and help out when they want instead of having to stay in the lobby the entire night.
Mm.
Like, for example, the button that I pressed earlier that you didn't see, that one is visible only to staff members, well, hosts specifically, just because I don't want people to constantly be clicking on little buttons that will trigger the lights from DMX mode to audio link mode, because everyone will just get blinded if it's a regular stream.
Mm. That's very understandable. It's a pretty good, pretty awesome to see that you and Fishbowl's whole is utilizing groups that heavily. At, that's that's awesome. Mm.
Yeah, for organization, it's really good. Like just being able, for example, to just leave an event like from Fishbowl every once in a while to go do my own thing, instead of having to stay here for the full 4 to 6 hours because otherwise this won't run itself. That's way nicer than it used to be because So at some point, it's it's not that I get burnt out, but at some point, I also kind of want to just relax on a Friday every once in a while and hang out with people that I don't see every single week, and just go to a different world while this is running and having people happy and dancing. That's what groups definitely made me able to do now. Because without groups, it was really hard to leave an instance to staff members because I just couldn't. They couldn't kick people. They just, it was really hard to do.
Hmm. How and from what you guys do, this is a question I used to ask a lot of people. What would you like to see come out in VR chat that would make what you do easier or run smoother?
Ooh, that's a really good one. Um, I would really like to see a system within the game where I can more easily showcase what is going on in the world. Like, let's say that you click on a fishbowl instance and you can actually see, oh, okay, this time this DJ is DJing or whatever. Like basically like events in Discord where you can like put little events, but have time slots for like different activities that are happening in the world, so that you don't have to like necessarily go to the Discord or whatever, but you can just click on an instance and see this DJ is DJing here. I think that would help a lot in regards to organization and stuff, because you can just set it up really neatly, and you wouldn't really have to do anything else in that night except for change the video player, because people could just see which DJ is going on. But besides that, I think we are at a very good point for clubs like mine, feature-wise, in VR chat. I don't think there's much more that I can think of the top of my head that would help me with organization. I think most of the stuff that could help is made by the community itself, not necessarily VR chat as a team. For example, like the club improves with area lit, where you see the reflections on the walls. That's something that's the newest thing that I implemented. That's definitely changed the look of the club in general. But those things are all community created, and that's the beauty of it. Like, you don't need the VR chat team to do much to improve these events. Like, I could think of a couple of things, like those time slot things that I just mentioned. I could technically solve that by just having a poster that automatically changes based off of a Google Drive file that I have. Every time that someone joins, it gets like pulled from the Google Drive and put into the poster. That's already something that like I can do, but it's not made by VR chat. That's made by the community again. So I couldn't really think of much that VR chat could implement themselves at the moment.
Okay. Did you know OVR Toolkit has an event system as well? You can put
I
out.
did see something like that. I did see something like that, but I couldn't really figure out where to find it. It keeps saying like there's events up and coming, but
yeah, I can actually show you. If you open up your OVR, hit the little gear, and then right below you see people. Click on that, and then open up the gearbox, and then right within the settings menu, you click events, and then anyone who has an event up, like right now, Rift and the Cauldron have something up right now, and you can say if you're interested or not. You can give out descriptions and everything of that nature. So within OVR Toolkit itself,
and anyone can post in this?
I believe so. I'm not sure how because I don't use it, but I know it's there. I've looked around a bit.
I'm quite surprised, because I do know Rift, for example, and it's quite interesting, like, to see with the size of the community that there's only one event in there so far. I don't think a lot of people know how this functions yet, but the fact that there's 10 people that are already like actually clicking on interested in that one single event does show that people are looking at it, just not necessarily event organizers. That's really cool. I might actually have to research that.
Yeah, and at least
thank you for telling me.
No problem. Also, at least with the OVR Toolkit, whenever you boot up VR and it loads up, it says,
yeah, we'll tell you.
There's 14 events going on right now. So at least it seems like it's a good tool for people who run events. Like I think Fia uses it. I'll see some of her events pop up in there, as well as other raves. Yeah. So at least when people boot up VR on the PC side of things, you'll see the events pop up, and you can just access it. Click a button, and it'll open up on your hand, and you see, oh look, these are all the events running today, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I genuinely think it's not that well known in the EU community yet then, because I have not really heard anyone talk about this yet, nor have I seen anything being used.
Mm. Well, to be fair, within
But that's crazy.
VRChat, a lot of people use either OVR or XS overlay. I don't think a lot of people know
Mm.
of a lot of the updates OVR came out with. Like I've been using it since I started. One of the first things I got in VR, and it's altered so much of some of the updates. There's an alarm system in here. You can manage your
Yeah.
music and so much other really cool stuff they've added to it, including events. And now you can customize
Yeah.
keyboards and so much other really cool stuff now. Although it is a bit,
Yeah, I only found out a couple of days ago that the OVR person who makes OVR is actually a VRchat player as well. Like
really,
I recently found out about that. Yeah, I saw them come by on my Twitter, and I was like, oh, that's a picture of a VRchat avatar. I'm pretty sure. So
that's actually really cool that the people who run OVR are VR chat players.
yeah,
I'm surprised to see how many people like within like tech and VR stuff are VR chat players. It's like almost come now where if it's in like the VR tech scene, guaranteed they have account here somewhere. And that's really honestly pretty cool. VR chat spreading.
I think VRchat is, if you are doing anything VR tech related, VRchat is one of the best groups you can go into for market research or in general to see what people want when it comes to like because metaverse related things, people wanted to turn into like the most realistic experience you can make it. Unlike other games like shooters and stuff, it's whatever. You can bring out a really cool controller, for example, that like tracks your fingers even better than the index. But who really cares how your fingers track in Tarkov or what's a Pavlov VR, for example? Like who
Mm,
cares that I can pull the trigger a little bit better? VR chat, on the other hand, that makes a huge difference. These kinds of social games.
mm,
Are probably the best place to go into when you're going to VR tech or
mm,
making VR tech.
mm. Especially since VR chat's like a big sandbox for all of it. As long as you have the Unity, Blender, and all your other tools, it's just like
Yeah.
a giant sandbox to do with what you wish and test with. I've even seen there are now some people in the psychology and the medicine scene doing research in VR chat, I believe, as well. So that's a thing that's happening.
Yeah, I've heard about like people getting therapy in VR chat from like an actual therapist
Mm,
before, which I found very interesting. Because it's, as I said, it's a very comfortable place. You can be who you feel comfortable being. Like
mm,
no matter what you look like in real life. Let's say that I feel more comfortable in my VR chat avatar than what I look
mm,
like in real life, for example. That could help a lot for some people to process their trauma, especially when it comes to like maybe body dysmorphia and stuff like that. I
mm,
think it's very good that you're able to sit in a basically in a world that makes you feel comfortable and then talk to these types of people about like things like therapists and stuff like that
mm.
instead of like sitting in the real world in front of someone that might not necessarily feel like they appeal to you or share anything with you. If you're in here and getting that, you know that at least they're a VR chat player and whatever. Like hell, even if you don't like the way that they look, you could just be like, "Can you please put on a different avatar? Your avatar makes me uncomfortable to talk to you about these things." You know.
Yeah. In terms of
So
like the
I.
ooh, sorry. You first. I
No, no,
apologize.
go on, go on, go on. No, go on, go
I'm a
on.
person who's very excitable, so I don't mean to be rude. I'm just like, let's go, that kind of thing. So I do apologize if it comes off in any other way. Uh,
No, 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 no. I intend to interrupt you here and there as well, so don't worry. Like, you go ahead.
in terms of like the psychology thing, feeling comfortable in your own avatar, I've seen a couple of different research projects for different things that kind of pertain to it. Like there was one where a group of people are studying how willing people are willing to share money in a business scene, depending on the VR world you're in. If the world you're in, when I see, definitely has an effect on the people and how willing they are to share. Now, I believe the study itself was something along the lines of they put them in a world that looked like a business building, damp, dreary, and then they would give them money, like $20. And then they would send them out to socialize, and then their whole goal was to see how willing were they to share, because in order to be there and talk with people, it cost you money. So in the business, like in business
Oh,
office building, they weren't as likely to share the money versus like you're in a space world. And there in a different alternate means, it seems a lot of people are willing to act differently depending on their surroundings and environment. So there's that, and on top of it, there's another research thing I've read as well. I wish I had the wait. I can find the links. They're in my Discord. But there's another one where a lot of people can use VR to treat like anxiety, depression, PTSD, and of that nature. And it seems like a lot of medicine, psychology, and doctors are using it more. As you said, you can come here and see a therapist. It seems to be another tool that has been found to help a lot with those things. Sorry, I just had to
Yeah, and
regurgitate
like I said earlier,
that.
no, that's good. That's good. Like I said earlier, the I used to be a very socially anxious person who barely dared to talk to people. Hell, I was in a period where I barely went out of my house and was scared to go to the grocery store. That's how bad it got at one point due to my depression. And as you said, like you can't really tell that at all anymore when you talk to me. I'm like a totally different, the opposite kind of person, and I'm pretty sure even my parents are very happy to see that, because I was at a very low part in my life. But VRChat definitely turned it out for the better again. Instead of me going down and down and down and down into a way deeper spiral than I would even like to think about going into. VRChat is very, even without it being an actual therapist that you talk to, I think VRChat is a therapist on itself in a sense. Just the people that are in here are just willing to listen and willing to accept you for who you are. Hell, even if you're embarrassed of your voice, you can just mute yourself and type and whatever. And maybe at some point you'll feel comfortable to share your voice with one person. And then after a period there, and they tell you that it's okay. No, dude, your voice is fine. Like, why are you so anxious about it? And then the next week you try to talk to more people, and then suddenly, before you know it, you might not even be a mute anymore. And I've seen that happen to people. I've seen genuine people that were never talking in VRChat because they were embarrassed of their voice or their accent even, just completely snap and go to a different personality, and now they are, that you could put them on a stage and they would love to talk to you. And it's beautiful to see. It's a really beautiful game in the sense of helping people, like you said. It's I don't know, this game is so many things at the same time. It's kind of insane.
It is. It's hard to describe this, as I said earlier, to people outside. There's so much that goes on. It does so much for people. There's businesses now springing up out of VR chat. There's so many things all at once, as you said, and it's very hard to pin down what to call it. I have no
Yeah, you can
idea.
compare it to Ready Player One, but with loading screens and not as immersive. But like, I think if you describe it like that, people will understand it sort of, because in Ready Player One, like especially in the movie and stuff, you'll see people wear characters of all kinds of games already. You have a woman in a really big ogre avatar, I'm pretty sure, for example, or it's like, oh, haha, she has a woman's voice, but it's actually in this like very big avatar. And that happens in VR chat as well. People can just put on whatever they want. You can go to any kind of world you want. You can fight boss battles together. It's not as linked. As I said, it's basically Ready Player One with a loading screen, and not everything is interlinked as well yet, but that's coming in the future. I already know of worlds that have an udon system that keeps track of your money in multiple like worlds that you can just jump between. That I've played before. I don't know what it was called, but like you get the money in one world and you go to the other one, and it's a completely different game, but you have the money still. That's pretty cool.
That does sound pretty cool. I was unaware that there's games like that. May I ask what they are?
I actually forgot what it was called. It was a bit like those Roblox tycoons. I don't know if you've ever played those.
I've I've seen a few tycoons in VR chat. Like there's a Shrek tycoon within VR chat I tried, but I've
Yeah.
never been in Roblox personally.
Yeah, no, Roblox is definitely also a very good example of a game like VRChat. It's an engine. You need to see VRChat more as an engine than anything else besides that. Like you can make whatever you want in it, you can be whatever you want in it, but it's not a game in itself. You need to make it a game, or make it a hangout thing, or make it even an office space that you work in comfortably. I know people that do that, that just work in VR chat with OVR toolkit and stuff like that. It's not, you can't define VR chat just in, like you said, you can't define VR chat as a singular thing. It's like what do you call it? A Swiss pocket knife. You can do
Mm,
anything with it if you
yeah.
really want to.
Indeed. It's a Swiss Army knife, indeed. Probably like a VR social platform, maybe, but even that's kind of vague because it doesn't give
You
all
don't need to
aspects
be
of it.
social even necessarily. You don't
Mm,
even need to. You could technically just make a world and just sit in there yourself and enjoy yourself the way that you want to. You don't have to put into the social aspect at all.
mm,
It's but definitely more social than anything. But as you said, it's really hard to put it into a singular box. It's more an umbrella term than anything else, VR chat.
yeah. You know, I was talking with some coworkers about like VR chat myself, and I was telling them, did you know there are DJs and raves and clubs and shows and fee bands? And they're like, there's what? So I kind of pulled up my phone and started like showing some people. It's like, yeah, you can see shows. You can put on your Quest headset and be amongst people, and that it blew their minds. It's like, you could do that, really? They're there. It's like, yeah, they're every day almost. You could be wherever you want. Yeah. Seems shocking to them.
People, yeah, every single day there's stuff going on in here. Like it was especially during the COVID period, people were on this game drinking and dancing every single day of the week for like the first period. Not that that's a good thing that people were
Mm,
drinking so much, but it was a lot of fun while it lasted.
mm,
And even this day, like technically I could go to any like a drinking event tonight if I really wanted to. Like I'm pretty sure I could just open up my social menu right now and like let's check what's going on. I see Sonar Underpass. It looks like there's 40 people in there. I'm sure there's a couple people there willing to share a drink with me, regardless of the fact that it's Tuesday.
mm.
Like it's it's crazy, like how every day there's events, but especially on the Fridays now.
Mm.
I've seen that with what was that person called again? They released this new timeline thing. Let me check real quick. Have you heard about that? Like a
New
new
timeline.
website where you can see all the events
I have not.
that take place during a day? Let me get it real quick because I feel like this is something very interesting that you would be down to know.
Definitely.
Uh, it's a Twitter account first of all, but it also has a full-on functioning website where you can check out the events that happen every single day. It's a timeline. It shows like at the top it shows like the hours, and then under those it shows like all the clubs that start at a specific point in time and the DJs that are in there and the Discord and things like that.
Oh wow.
It's called VV Timeline, and if you go to vrc.tl, that's the website where you want to go, and it's made by I think it's Woody but spelled with two V's instead of a W.
Mm.
So I'm sorry if I butchered that. If you ever hear this, Woody or Woody, yeah, I will send you the link to their
Oh,
profile. So you can definitely
please,
check it out because
please
that's one of the
do.
coolest things I've seen come out recently. But there
Mm.
you can really see, especially in the EU scene,
Mm.
how many events truly are happening right now. Like if sometimes on Fridays my club even just empties out a bit because there's just so many events going on.
Mm.
And if you have so many choices, then people have been going to Fishbowl every week for such a long period of time. So, but that's a good thing. It's good to see like the thing move around and stuff. People always come back here at some point, which is lovely to see. That people see it more as a home base than anything else. But like that website really showcases it. You really need to check it out.
Definitely.
It's insane how many events can happen,
That's
especially this week. Like this week. Like every other week it's more busy. Like this week right now is the busier week, and the next week is going to be a little bit less busy, even though it's still quite crazy.
Mm. You know, that whole timeline thing sounds super similar to a thing was sold up by VR Japan Tours, and they over in Japan they have an entire calendar similar to the timeline, and it'll list all the events going on, all the clubs, DJs, dance events, whatever's going on. It'll give you like a month to month calendar. It seems very similar to that. And that's really cool. There's
I'm pretty
others.
sure this one is automated as well because
Really?
whenever I don't have to actually inform anyone about this. I just post it on Twitter and it gets automatically retweeted by the bot for the timeline, and then I don't know, it just magically pops up in in the timeline as well. I've never actually given information. I've never talked to the creator of this thing, but my events are in there every week, regardless of when I where or when I post it. It seems so. I find that really cool.
It's my guess is probably some automated AI system that could read images and turn it into text. So when you post your poster and it says, "Oh, I got
Yeah.
a Roomba and Bobby J and Dunne in an event," and from there it'll just read the text from the image and then post it into a text within the system. Be my guess. Although I'm not AI literate too much, I
I'm
only
not
know
sure.
what I've been told. Hmm.
No, I think it could also be that they have a link to Discord as well, because you can most clubs these days use the time zone thingies where it like automatically switches to whatever time zone you're in, like I sent to you to
Hmm.
make this meeting and thing. And that gets pulled, I think. Oh, so it knows exactly the time that it starts and it dates as well. But it could genuinely also be the AI image thing that, like you said. I am really not sure. AI has come very far recently.
Hmm.
Um, but I do know of another place that used to do this manually. I don't know. Have you talked to anyone from the VRC Party Hub?
I have not. I have not had the pleasure of talking to Party Hub.
If you would like, I could actually get you in touch with Captain Duck if you want. But that is someone that, if you want to know anything about the VRchat clubbing community or any of the parties that have been taking place for the past couple of years, Captain Duck has been doing his Duck's Daily Roundup for a very long time at this point, where he just actually grabs every event from every day and he posts them in his Discord without any AI or automated bots.
Oh
So
wow.
if there's someone that you need to talk to about VR chat events, it's definitely Captain Duck.
Hmm. Well, that would be appreciated. I love to talking to new faces. I'm willing. I like learning things. It's really cool.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. No, Captain Duck is someone that's been part of this community for a very long time. He doesn't even actually play in VR. He's a
Oh.
desktop player, but like he's one of the sweetest people and stuff as well. Like I've met him in real life at a festival. He goes to IRL events and stuff like that, and he's exactly the same as he is in VR. But that's also like a thing. People are just exactly the same as they are in VR a lot of the time, and you don't see that a lot in other games and things like that. I feel like where people genuinely show their true personality instead of masking it to fit into a demographic that a game like creates. You know?
Mm. It does feel like VR chat encourages that too, especially among friend groups. Like when you're anywhere in here, a lot of people just encourage you to be yourself. And it's not like the VR chat community judges you much unless you're like a ripper or crasher, then you get judged. But otherwise, people are just so willing to accept you as a person. Like what someone in my friend group who was a mute and they finally started speaking, the entire friend group went nuts. And that's the exact same energy they have here with people who whoever you are, and I've noticed that a lot about here. People are
Yeah,
accepting.
I had a similar thing where in 2020 we had someone who was a mute in our group. There's always a question: is it a boy or a girl? They didn't want to tell, you know.
Mm.
And one night we were just hanging and one of my friends comes over to me and is like, yo, follow me right now, but they're fucking talking. They want you to hear their voice. And like, okay, where? Yeah, just go into that room. They're in there alone. You need to hear it. You need to hear this. And I just go in there. I'm like, hello, and they're like, hello. And it was like, holy shit, what? You're a girl? You're really a girl? And I was like, yeah, I can't tell everyone that. She was because you know how people are in this game. So I was like, okay, fair. And they don't actually still are mute here, so it's very cool because like people just don't know, and we just meme around about it. We're like, ah, maybe it's a boy, maybe it's a girl, you know. And we like to mess around with it as well because we just switch around the pronouns constantly. Like we'll address them as he or then suddenly she, and like all over the place. And I find it so funny as well. So it creates a very funny little game here and there.
I'm sure everyone there enjoys it, especially when they know the person personally.
But this is like a friendship that's been building for the past like 3 years now. So
Mm,
it's like especially fun because of that. Like you
Mm,
can get some really lifelong friends in here. I feel like if you really play your cards right.
mm. I
I
I
mean, now I've seen weddings happen and stuff, but from Fishbowl even. Like I've had
really.
two people get married in the very early stages of Fishbowl. Not necessarily the best relationship I've ever seen. That was definitely very rushed and stuff. But they did get married, and I'm pretty sure they're still together to this day. But,
Wow.
but like, it's kind of crazy, like how you can create something like this, and people get together and get that close to that point. The amount of relationships that I've seen that happen practically because of me making this community is like, also really cool.
Hmm. Well, VRChat provides people that opportunity to meet people of like mind. Like a common generality of VRChat players is they play video games and they like anime. So with that general census, you're more apt to find people of a like mind to you are. No matter where people go in games, like if you play Call of Duty, there's probably some stories of people meeting up there. I've heard lots of stories of World of Warcraft, people meeting up and getting married from World
Oh
of
yeah.
Warcraft and stuff of that nature. VRChat's no stranger to it as well, because at least when you come here,
No.
whether you're at fishbowl or drinking night or anime watch parties, you're guaranteed to meet people of similar interests to mine to you are. There's that.
Yeah, especially in music events and things like that. When people get a little bit tipsy, it's fun because that's when people really become themselves. A lot of the times, not too drunk, obviously. That's when it gets a little bit problematic sometimes. But like if they're the right amount of tipsy, you can really see how lovely people can be. A lot of the times, like you can get virtual hugs from people like out of nowhere, because it just feels so realistic to them for that moment, and they just want to hug, and they wouldn't do that in real life, for example, but it's something that they really crave technically, and that's really sweet because it just lets people, this game lets people really be themselves regardless of what you look like, what you feel like, how you talk, what ethnicity you have. You can just be part of whatever. You don't need to showcase anything but your personality.
Mm.
Like that's all you need to showcase here.
Yeah, and for a lot of people that from my opinion, the avatar definitely helps with that as well, especially the community paired with it, because it's not like people see your face when you're shy or you're socially anxious. They don't see you, they may see the banana or the banana fall back or Patrick or
Oh
whatever you
my god,
choose.
the banana fallback. The amount of times I get people walking up to me like, "Oh, I like your banana outfit." I'm like, "What do you mean?" "Oh, that's my fallback, apparently." Like, why do you have my fallback on? Like, I sometimes like really randomly friends of mine as well. I'm like, "Why do I'm not in a banana outfit." But yeah,
Mm,
it's definitely like, but even if you don't have an avatar that necessarily resonates with you or like showcases anything that you made yourself or whatever,
mm.
your personality always outshines that in this game.
Oh yeah.
And like even the Uganda Knuckles guys at the time, if you once they stopped making the noises and stuff like that, they could actually have a full-on conversation with you, even though they are the most goofy-looking avatar you've ever seen. Like you can have some genuine, like full-hearted conversations with people
Mm,
because it's who they are.
mm. I think I've seen people on both sides of the avatar spectrum. Like there are people like myself who stay in an avatar. That's their thing. And then there's the avatar hoppers. They'll be in various things depending on mood. And I'm glad VRChat provides that for people to be whatever it is you wish. Allow your personality to shine over you and just be yourself. Mm.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful thing, and it's like artistic things come out of it as well. People that might have never touched anything 3D related or Photoshop or whatever. I've seen people just learn this purely just so they can express themselves in a video game, and it's really cool. Like I personally had no experience in anything Blender or Unity or anything like that, but taught it myself to first upload avatars, and then at one point I had to re-upload this world from scratch, pretty much. So I had to learn how to set up a world in Unity, and those things I would have never thought of learning. Well, I mean, sort of. In my school, we also had a game development class, but I didn't really follow it. But
Mm.
like it's crazy. It's such a creative outlet for people that don't even necessarily realize how creative they really can be.
Mm. Indeed. And I've heard a lot of stories of, well, people just being inspired by somebody. Maybe they hop in a world and saw, and it's like, I want to do this, or saw someone in a funny Ugandan's Knuckles avatar and want to know how to do it. Or maybe they went to a fishbowl or rave event of some sort. It's like, I want to do the same thing the guy on stage is doing. And they get inspired and they go off in some random tangent, teaching themselves how resources and Blender and Unity and different sound software works. It's so common here. It's
Yeah, even DJing.
mm.
Even DJing, like how many people buy DJ decks these days on VRChat just to try it out? Like people that just have never thought about it before, they're like, oh, I could probably learn how to DJ, and then a couple of months later, they're on a stage at whatever big event you can name, and I've seen some names really grow really fast. 10XX is a really good example of that. 10XX was the very first DJ I contacted in 2020 somewhere. I was very unaware of how DJ bookings went in VR. I legit asked him, like, how much do you charge per hour? And he was like, what, charge per hour? Are you crazy? And he still makes fun of me for it because it was the first thing I ever asked him. But from him DJing like in VRChat, that turned into him actually DJing at Liquidity Festival in the Netherlands in 2022 on one of the stages. Like, we got the vote on getting him to DJ on the community stage, and he won that, and he was on that stage DJing, and he did an amazing job. And then you get him into a club IRL where I hosted my event, and he's on stage there, and it's just really crazy how it just grows. People just learn and they grow and they grow, and they're getting more and more not famous necessarily, but they're getting more well known, and they get record label offers and things like that. They're releasing their own music now and things like that. And for 10XX, I know that he's also traveling all over the world at this point for festivals occasionally, and it's really cool. It's just someone that I've known in this game, and just initially was, to me, just someone that was streaming on Twitch, doing the DJ stuff, but just kept getting more famous in this scene, and that's lovely to see. Like, people really being able to pursue their passion and then actually make their job out of it practically.
That's a huge testament to the VRChat community as well. So many people are willing to, like, for the Metaverse Degen, for example, is where I could speak of. So many people are so willing to help or help promote you or whatever it is without much ask, and they'll just do it. Which that's a huge testament to like the VRChat community, that people like Ted are able to like start as a hobby and then off they go being at festivals, and VRChat being an outlet to do that. Makes it kind of unique in a sense.
It's great to be able to practice daily in an environment where you can actually have people live react to your music with body language and everything. I think that is a very big part of why DJs in VR just seem to be doing so well as they are. Because when you normally are a DJ in real life, you either have to get booked for a venue or you have to make your own like house parties or whatever to actually get a live crowd response. Like, you can stream on Twitch, but you will just have a chat. Like in VRChat, you have a live response from the audience with body language. You can even talk to them and hear them talk back directly, especially thanks to VRCDN and things like that. It makes it even better because there's like almost 0-second latency between what's happening on screen and in the VRChat world. So, like, the more we link those like things together, I think we are gonna get a bunch of DJs that end up having at least some sort of form of following in real life as well. Like, I know plenty of people that would fly over for an event just because 10XX is playing there, for example. Really? At this point.
That's impressive. That says a lot about him as a person too.
Oh, yeah, he's a lovely guy. I'm very glad to have met him when I did. He, regardless of the embarrassing first encounter I had with him, it wasn't that bad. But like, at the IRL event, for example, at the end, it's just like people, he was so thankful for me. I was so thankful for him. It's just like we hugged and stuff like that. It's lovely that you can make such good relationships just purely off of a single conversation that you can have with someone like that, and how you can build something together. Because without 10xx Fishbowl wouldn't definitely not be this size, and no, not necessarily that he wouldn't be at this place where he is now, but I feel like I in some way have helped him as well by booking him multiple times in the Fishbowl and getting people to listen to him and things like that. So we helped each other out in that regard, and it's awesome to see it.
Hmm. So, what was some of your first events in Fishbowl like then, as a curiosity?
Ooh. So, as I said, we used to run events in like open club spaces like Club Cobalt at the time with just YouTube links. That transferred into me using an app on my phone as an AI DJ to play a Spotify playlist that was made by the community every week. So I would just like record it on my phone and then put it into a video and upload it to YouTube. Into eventually contacting 10xx for the first event in one of our first maps. And that was just very basic, honestly. You had none of the lights. You had just a stage with a DJ booth, and a dance floor that was not even animated half of the time. Like it was very basic. But that's slowly, like, you get one DJ, then you got a couple of other people that seem interested in DJing for you. And then I think that was already kind of where that became the standard. You just have DJs for 2 hours. That was used to be the standard back then. And it's kind of just stuck with it up until last week. We did our first 1 hour slot event just because I need more time and stuff to deliver a higher quality content, I feel like. So that's why we started doing 1 hours. But having those DJs at first, that was a very big step. And then just upgrading the world. That's basically it. If it wasn't for the community making Audio Link or VRSL, AC Chosen did a really awesome job making it possible to have lights like this in VR at this point. Like, those are very important things that kept this community alive the way that it is, I think. Because I feel like if we were still stuck in the 2020 period with how the world's looked and functioned, I don't think we would have been anywhere close to where we are now, with especially the clubbing community and the DJs and things like that. It's nice. I think it's very important to keep things fresh in a club, and like having new things get added every once in a while. Just to keep people like interested and entertained, because you have that ability to do that, and you should use it.
I can understand that. VRchat at least provides a place for people to experiment and make those things. It's not like there's a whole lot of resources outside of here to have that sandbox unless you make it yourself. I'm sure there are some out there that I'm not thinking of. Like, you got Resonite, you got Chill Out, Neo's, who's no longer around, but at least ones with a functioning, stable, large community like VRchat. There's not a whole lot of ones like they're out there.
No, I feel like a lot of the ones that you just named, like Chill Out and stuff, they definitely have potential, but the communities are still quite based off of the fact that, based off of their hate for VRchat at this point, which is, in my opinion, kind of not the way to run things. I've had DJs tell me that I should switch from VRchat to Chill Out VR because VRchat is the most toxic place out of them all, and it's gonna die soon, and this and that. And so that always has put a little bit of a sour taste into my mouth with these other like games, just based off of like how the community treated people that were playing VRchat purely because they removed mods at the time and stuff. But they definitely do have potential, especially in regards to Chill Out VR. I'm pretty sure they have workshop things instead of them. Yeah, that's how their mods and stuff work. You do it through the workshops in Workshop, which is a very good way to do things, and it makes it more accessible for people that don't necessarily know how to use Unity and things like that. But all of these, like, even VR just still has a long way to go to become perfect, and I'm curious to see. It's good to have competition in the pool as well, of course. You know.
Indeed, I believe a good saying is "a rising tide lifts all ships." Is a good way to put it.
Very good one. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I would say it as well. But yeah, it's just I'm curious to see where it goes. VRChat.
Same.
Coming years are going to be some of the most exciting I've had in a while, especially because I signed up as a business and stuff. I want to double down on everything a bit. The new map is being made. Hopefully, we release it somewhere early 2024. Like for me, the things that I'm looking forward to is more catered and more actually organized events instead of me just booking DJs and being like, okay, we play, we drink, and that's it. Now I want to have actual VJs at these events in the future for every event, and dancers from places like Calibrate or the Go-Go team at Club Poseidon, for example. We have just for entertainment and like so that it feels like it's more organized. And like you said earlier, Sanctum and stuff are a very good thing because it motivates people to try things like this. Like a lot of clubs probably wouldn't have thought of having proper VJs and like things like that if it wasn't for these heavily organized events that have been done in VRChat so far. I wouldn't have thought of it, for example. But like alone this DMX that you're seeing right now, where all the lights are being controlled by the stream individually, that's already like a marvel of innovation, and like this makes such a difference if compared to just having audio linked lights. Like it adds so much more like interactability. Like you can tell that the lights in his room are exactly the same reacting as they are in game right now. Like right now they're blue / purple, and then we'll switch to another color for him. It will do the same in here.
Oh wow. So I have a weird question about that. How does the video and in here react together? How does like the whole inter video system?
Can I take you to the games room real quick to show you?
Sure.
Because you can see it very well in there.
Yeah, let's grab the camera. All right. Oop, hold on.
Oh yeah.
Hold on, I need to fix the camera.
Yeah, that's why I asked. I knew the camera was.
I was on flag mode.
Yeah. So if you look at the stream here, this is Epic Officer. This is one of the few DJs that I have right now that actually do DMX. On the right side of the stream, there's actually a part that is not used by the actual stream for like the video, but it's used by this little bitmap that, as far as I am aware, I'm not very knowledgeable on how exactly it works, but every pixel on here represents a either a position of the lights in XYZ, the colors in RGB, and if it's on or off, or how big or wide it is, or even like what image is being shown in the gobos.
Oh wow.
So like it's basically just it's a bitmap that gets read by a camera on the other side of the world off of the screen, which live translates into those lights like a real DMX thing, pretty much. It's like a real DMX signal but translated into video and getting decoded by a video camera, pretty much.
Oh wow, that's immensely impressive. Oop.
Yeah, that's the stuff that AC Chosen has made possible in his club. Like it's crazy what he has done with VRSL. And even now it's still improving. Like he's made it so that you can actually have these lights reflect off of the walls like Realife does, which is going to be in the new map as well.
That's very impressive. Oop, hold on, I need to bing bong. Fly. Turn face. There we go. So that's when did that all start springing out, the DMX and Interlight systems?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me think real quick. That would be like end 2022 maybe, if I'm like thinking correctly. Yeah, the end of 2022 roughly, I think. But that's not that long ago, to be honest. Compared to like how long it could take to implement stuff like this. But now we're already getting new stuff again with this VRSL, and you can test all this stuff out if you go to Club Orion by AC Chosen. You can always like demo all the stuff that they are adding into these lights. So it's really cool. But this, again, because it's part of the VRchat community, it's so nice because the person who made it is so interactable with the VRchat community as well on top of that. So you can directly communicate with them, you can ask questions, you can show them the world and stuff like that. We had a lot of issues with the VRSL lighting for a while, and I was just able to contact AC on Discord and be like, hey man, we've got some issues. Would you be down to maybe tell me what I probably did wrong? And he just helps out. So it's
Hmm.
very lovely to have people like that in the community,
That is, and
making things for the community and helping them. Yeah.
hmm, I think at least from what I've seen, I think this last year and a half, 2 years has been like an explosion of innovation in terms of like in-game VR chat stuff. Seems like a lot of stuff has been coming out recently.
Yeah, it's mostly because of the new avatar systems with FishBones and the VRchat OSC stuff, where you can actually like hook apps into VRchat through the OSC stuff.
Mm,
So it opened up a lot of new things without having to use mods, you know.
mm,
So I think that's definitely why it suddenly became a big surge of new things, because before that VRchat was just quite limited at the time. And because they opened up the possibility because of the mod fiasco to like do things like this, I think that's why the creativity kind of like sparked in people to make things happen.
mm. Well, I'm glad to see in wake of the EAC fiasco, a lot of stuff and opportunity has sprouted out of it. And as much stink a lot of people in the community put up with it, it seems a lot of people aren't as mad about it now because like even over in public lobbies now they seem not as hectic as a way to put it. There are some
No.
that still keep the reputation of being a wild card, cough cough, black cat, cough cough, but most of them in essence
Yeah.
have been fairly stable since then, which is great too.
Yeah, especially for me as a club owner or even event organizers in general, I've heard from others and I've personally experienced a almost 90% drop in crashers or anything like that since the EAC came out. Before that, we actually had big issues in Fishbowl because people just loved crashing the lobbies, because at the time we were one of the bigger clubs. That was going on. Like if we had a lobby of like 80 people, suddenly someone would just come in with a proton, what do you call it? Proton spammer? I think they were called back then, and it would just crash the entire lobby, and you were gone. Like 80 people just out of that thing, having to restart VR chat. Yeah, good luck getting everyone back in at that point, especially when it's 4 a.m. or whatever time, that unholy
Mm.
time that you're online and drunk, you know.
Mm.
And that really sucked back then. But I have genuinely not experienced a proper crasher in a long while, especially since EAC.
Yeah. Even in like the typical running grounds and public lobbies like the Black Cat or Fur Hub, even places like that, they used to see like botnets show up and crash lobbies on a regular basis. It's quiet. It's just players now. And that's
The botnets, you almost forgot about those.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
when I around earlier days, I would hang out in like Fur Hub a lot because it seemed like a happy, peaceful, amazing place. And it would be regular, you'd see every instance just evaporate all at once. It'd be like every 15 minutes, you'll see a bunch of bots
Mm.
named numbers and letters just show up and gone. And then they'd move on to another instance and come back 15 minutes later, do it again. And it's quiet now. It's,
Yeah. That stuff has really not happened anymore. The botnets, I totally forgot about those.
mm,
But the worst case of someone abusing the fact that there was no anti-cheat that I have seen happened to one of my friends, where
oh,
all they needed was a username of someone. And I don't know if they were in a lobby with him, but they just had to enter their username into this little text box at the top left of their VR chat. They sent me a video of it. They just entered their name and it just printed out their password for the VR chat account. And this was
oh,
before two-factor authentication and things. So what they would do at the time to create those botnets that had trusted users in it, they would grab people's passwords like that. They would just have people going around lobbies taking pictures of people, and then if they just saw a picture of someone that had a purple name tag, they would just enter the name, get the password. Now they had a trusted account,
oh,
and that was the craziest thing I've seen in VR chat. To be honest, they were just able to enter a name and get the a user or to get the password just right like that. My friend lost his account because of that he had for years before, and he never got it back actually. But that was like the craziest that I've seen in regards to no anti-cheat. But the fact that was possible for a period, I am kind of glad that maybe easy anti-cheat prevented some future backdoors that we might not have realized, in my opinion.
You saying that reminded me of another thing. I was in a fur lounge before EAC. I think it was a year before. And there was this crasher dude who kept them coming in and causing problems. That I think this one specifically liked to turn off buttons and like remove colliders for
Mm-hmm.
things and stuff like that. And he was just angry, naturally just angry, screaming at things. And I asked him, "What are you doing?" And he just started word vomiting everything he's doing. And within that word vomit, I learned a lot of that community is able to evade bans with a mod that would just change the hardware ID or whatever else it did, and they could just come back repeatedly. I'd block him, he'd be back. I'd block him, he'd come back almost immediately as fast as it would take to reload the world. And I'm glad that EAC once they came in, you don't see those people anymore. I think they may have given up.
Yeah, I think, but EAC definitely made it a lot harder for them as well. And the two-factor authentication thing is also very much a reason why people are safer and stuff in this game at this point. But like that hacker that I was talking about, hacked my friend, I created a separate Discord account and I messaged them on there because they had so they changed the bio, or not the bio, the status of the person that they hacked to their Discord name and whatever, like kind of just to flex, I suppose. So I was like, let me just see what I can do. Let me go talk to them. I'm not gonna give them my name, obviously, but let me try to talk to them. And just the conversations that you can have with these people is kind of weird because they claim that they're doing it because we are all sad for spending our hours in this game and stuff like that, and they just seem like very miserable people. In my opinion, if you spend hours crashing other people's joy, then you kind of are a little bit sadder than people that spend their entire day in their room, because you kind of do the same thing, but you do it just to ruin people's moods. But like, you can't convince these people of otherwise. That's what I've also learned. These people just have a mindset. You can fight with them all you want, but they have this very toxic mindset that you just are not worthy of their time anyways. But eventually I learned how he did it. He sent me a video of how exactly he got the password of my friend. And then after that I was like, okay, I guess you're not gonna give it back, huh? And he's like, no, I'm not gonna give it back. And that was that. But it's just a really weird community of people that just, but that's in every single game. Like, every game has hackers that just feel the need to ruin the experience of others just because they have some form of vendetta against people having fun in a specific game.
Well, unfortunately, as long as the internet exists, those people are going to be everywhere,
Yep.
no matter what. They're in Call of Duty, they're in Halo. If you want to see a weird, wild, wacky, Wild West place, the Halo demo from like before 2010, it was Halo 2 demo where it's Blood Gulch. That place is a wild, modded out place. I went in once years after high school because when I was in high school, people would pass a pen drive around with a demo on it, and they would just play lobbies together in high school. And I was like, I wonder what that place is like now. And I went and I'm seeing flying warthogs and places just one giant crazy hurricane of whatever. Yeah, no matter where you go, they're gonna be there, even if it's a Halo demo from 2 decades ago.
I like, you have Titanfall 2 getting DDoSed for years, making it unplayable for a very long period of time. You have TF2 servers having spin bots in it. You can't even play on the regular servers a lot of the time because you'll just get completely fucked over. And so you have to go to resort to community servers, and even then you have a lot where they just join and still spin bots in there. But that's just part of gaming, I suppose, and it's whatever, like they hop in. I at the time when it was at its worst, I didn't even put like that much like actual time and effort into this yet, so it was an ass hurting. Like let's say that it happens right now where I actually put money in it and like I genuinely put a lot of effort into these events. It will hurt a bit more obviously if stuff like that happens.
Mm,
But especially back then, the community wasn't luckily as serious as it is right now.
mm,
So I'm glad that it got easy anti-cheat right before like the big boom of VRChat clubbing, I suppose.
mm. I'm glad that VRChat's taking steps to help moderate, even if it's like group moderation systems, EAC, and that the fact they're pushing some of that to help the community stay safer, quieter, I guess is a way to put it. And they're on top of that, the VRChat staff seem to be very active in here too. It's not like they're just dudes behind a desk not knowing what's going on in the own game they run. They're here.
No, I know for a fact one of the VRChat staff that currently works there is someone that I knew from VRChat. That got hired by them just around the time when the Easy Anti stuff happened, just because they wanted to get closer to the community. Um, like and he's been very interactive with me still. Like ever since he got hired, when the groups first came out in beta, the second that the beta got released, first thing he did was join me. It was like, "Yo, the group beta is out. I thought you should know." I was like, "Oh, thank you." It was just the VRChat staff just coming up and telling me pretty much. And Tupper, for example, I personally haven't had the privilege to talk to Tupper, but I know that Tupper is very active in the community and very lovely to a lot of people that put a lot of work into VRChat. And even just regular people that just go to these parties and make avatars and whatever, like not necessarily people that run events. I know that they're friends with Tupper. So it's just they try their best. They get a lot of slack for whatever, but I genuinely do think they try their best. You can't, and as I said earlier, you can't keep everyone happy. The vocal minority is always gonna be the loudest among the groups, and you can't really avoid that. And it's always gonna look worse than it really is.
Mm,
Because you got to
indeed.
realize that even though there's 1,000 people posting, screw this update, there's gonna be tens of thousands that are gonna be like, okay, whatever, it's not best, but
Yeah.
it's what they wanted.
Unfortunately, a lot of people think Twitter and the internet vocal minority is real life. You can see with how a lot of people act nowadays. They'll see angry Twitter be angry about a thing. It's, oh no, the world's falling apart. It's like 10 people with 100
All you need to
different
get is Twitter
accounts.
blue. I need to get this Twitter blue, and people will be like, "Oh yeah, that must be the average opinion because that's the top of the reply section." And then you scroll further down to the non-Twitter blue things, and they're like, "Oh, such a cool update! Thank you very much." Like that's like the thing. But yeah, it's the general the general opinion of VRChat is always going to be better than what you see online on Twitter and stuff like that, I think.
I've noticed a lot of people that I've met here personally. Some of them don't even use social media like VRChat, Twitter. They're not even there. So when you're like basing an entire opinion on, I don't know how much you guys in VRChat staff pay attention to that, but it's not the same group opinion. Like most people in here aren't even on Twitter. A lot of them, some of them even despise it,
No.
and they love like some
Yeah, a
of them
lot
will love
of
updates, and you can't really take it for that.
people that are on Twitter complaining also I always think like why aren't you just submitting a ticket or whatever? Like that's
Mm,
the place where you need to do it. Like they have an entire place where you can make suggestions and give feedback and stuff like that. But all you're doing is posting it in the Twitter comments just to see if you can get a reaction out of other people, it feels like. And
mm,
not actually willing to help out to make the thing better.
mm,
Especially when it comes to like VRChat Plus, I still see a lot of people be negative about that. While I don't necessarily think you need to have a subscription system for everything that you use. I do think $10 a month, if you are able to spend that on a game that you probably spent tens of hours in every single week to have, where you probably can thank your social life to. I think it's very fair that you pay for a product that you use
Mm.
Same with like YouTube Premium and stuff. I get that people are upset about ads and things like that, and that it's like they are forcing you to get YouTube Premium, but you do got to realize that you are using a product that's being run by people, and you are actively using it probably if you're complaining that much. So why
Mm.
is it that weird that they are asking money for it? Because you are like trying to step around the rules around how they are making money with ads and stuff like that. But
Mm.
especially with VRChat Plus, I've noticed people are like, yeah, but they don't do crap with it. What are they using the money for? As far as I'm aware, VRChat doesn't even make a profit at the moment. They're actually kind of burning money still. I am
Mm.
not entirely sure, but that's what I heard. And even if, I'm pretty sure the servers alone cost a shit ton of money to run this kind of stuff.
Mm.
Like, if we
Indeed.
didn't have VRChat Plus or anything like that, I don't think we would be sitting here right now doing this interview. We would
Not.
be in Discord or whatever.
Mm.
And even on Discord, people complain about Discord Nitro. And let's be real, if Discord Nitro didn't exist, we wouldn't be able to have Discord anymore either. Or we would have Discord with a bunch of ads. Like, that's also like a thing. People need to
Mm.
realize it's either you're going to have a bunch of ads or your data being sold, or you just, you give a bit.
Mm.
You give a little bit. And they keep adding more and more features to VRChat Plus. And I've honestly been quite surprised with the amount of things that they've been able to come up with.
Mm.
Um, Not necessarily everything should be behind a paywall, in my opinion, but it's still very fun features that you can choose to pay for, and you don't have to do it. It's not like you're being locked out of genuine like game-breaking features, and that can ruin your experience. If you're in this game for multiple like tens of hours a week almost, I think it's not that weird of an idea to give a little bit back to VR chat once a month.
Mm. One thing I
You
think,
know?
yeah, I think one thing a lot of people need to understand is any internet product that's free, you are the product being sold. Your data, what
Yeah.
kinds of things you click on, how do you interact with it, and that gets collected and sent out to advertisers or whoever will pay for it. And so when you see like VR chat or YouTube Premium, that in a sense is making the content the product, no longer you, which again gives the
Yeah.
user a lot more, should give the user better knowledge, knowing that they're at least trying to separate you from people who want everything that is about you. And that subscription allows a place like VRChat not to have those data collections with ads that play in your worlds. Knowing what kind of weird, fancy uh, ERP avatar you're wearing, whatever it may be, and at least that pay VRChat Plus allows the community to support VRChat in a way that they won't have to hopefully bring in as much advertisers. They won't have to like bring in ads and other stuff like that or investors to pay for those things that have
Hmm.
further the control. The VRChat Plus allows VRChat to be in the hands of the community as much as they want to support.
I don't think people realize how few data VRChat really like actually collects about everything people do. If you are in a private world and you use an avatar that technically breaks the rules, there's almost a 0% chance that you're gonna get banned. Purely because you're using it in a private world and you're not showing it to anybody. But like for example, people that get banned because of sexually explicit avatars and stuff like that usually accidentally put them on in a public world or whatever, where the data, either gets
Mm.
sent by another player and stuff like that, or it's already being moderated, or you are already being moderated by a staff member of VRChat that probably they can actually join lobbies if they need to, if they think something is really fucked going on invisibly. They can just join it or check it out to see, but they don't do that unless you get reported and like stuff like that. Unless you're genuinely breaking the rules, they don't collect much data, if any at all, about what you really are doing in there.
Mm.
And that's a lot for a social platform, in my opinion.
Exactly. If you go to places like Facebook, for example, did you know Facebook knows when you use the bathroom, for example? Because the system, as long as you have Facebook onto your device, it knows, oh, Lion Turtle was by this sandwich restaurant and went inside of it at 5 p.m. And then within 30 minutes to an hour, on average, he's in a bathroom because his location data says he is. Therefore, this is the proper time that he uses the bathroom and the best time to show ads or whatever it is. And a lot of that information isn't always stuff you give, it's how you interact with Facebook as well. What kinds of pages does Lion interact with? How does he feel at that moment? And he uses all that information to create a fun little profile of you. And that is the product Facebook sells a lot of the time. It's not like X or Twitter that's creating blue to try and separate that. Or Vrchat. Places like Facebook, you are the product. You are what they sell. And that's why it's free.
Yeah, and people also have the same argument with stuff like, but even if there's like a product, like let's say that actively promotes the fact that you are private and stuff like that. Oh, what the? I'm hearing music suddenly. I don't know where that's coming from. Oh, 1 second.
It's all good.
There you go. Sorry. No. What people like for example, Apple is very much going into privacy and privacy related things currently. But just because it's a mega conglomerate, people start to get skeptic about it. Like, oh, are they really not selling anything? I don't think people realize that you legally can't really do that. And I'm sure big corporations like that also get heavily checked on stuff, not just by the government, but also by people. Like, I've had to explain to people multiple times that people have checked what data Apple truly sends to their servers from your phone when they claim that Siri is from now on completely running from your phone instead of sending any data to Apple servers, and people are still like, yeah, but I don't trust it. I'm like, well, you know, they're trying to make it a better thing. They're genuinely, trying to improve on it, but you're not letting them unless it's, some tiny company like OnePlus or whatever, which runs on Android, which is made by Google, so it's already, you're kind of messed up there to begin with. Yeah. So
I'm not saying that Facebook is like gathering everything about you in the real world, just how you interact with it. Like, use the app.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true though. I mean, I can talk about something right here, right now, and I will get an ad about it. Like fucking 2 minutes later on my phone, if I really want to scroll, I've had countless times where I suddenly talk about grilled cheese sandwiches, for example, and suddenly I get an email from Uber Eats specifically about the grilled cheese place in my area for that is having a sale or whatever, and that's not just Facebook, but that's just your general everything that you use, your Google Chrome, your microphone, just in general, which is why it's a good thing that phones starting with Apple again, they have this little icon where you can see if the microphone is active or inactive. Even in Apple software and stuff, it's completely hardwired into it. If that wire is on, same as with your webcam on your laptop. By the way, people, if you don't notice yet, if that light in your laptop is on, that means that it's on. If it's off, it can't even be accessed. It's hardwired. If electricity goes through that, the light always goes on. Hackers can't turn that light off. It's quite impossible unless they actually physically touch your laptop. I see a lot of people covering their cameras still these days, but it's like, if it's on, you will know. But a lot of the cases where you're just on Google and stuff like that, Google Chrome, I don't know how to gather it, but somehow they know. It's about your location, about your general behavior on the internet and stuff. It's not even necessarily that they're listening anymore, like you said. I think you just go to a sandwich place and it will know, oh, this is the perfect time for him to go to the toilet. Let's show him some ads.
Yeah, a lot of that though is predictive systems. It's not necessarily, tell me if I'm wrong, please do. I got 3 brain cells. But I believe a lot of that's predictive systems. It's not necessarily, oh, they're listening that Lion's talking about sandwiches and food he must be eating. It's, oh, based on these interactions at these times, Lion likes interacting with our system when he eats. Therefore, this is when he's eating, and he uses the bathroom. So these are the time zones based on that activity where he's doing things therefore X, Y, or Z. I believe there was a story of a father who found out his daughter was pregnant based on the questions with or how it's
Yeah,
interacting with
I've heard that
the
one. Yeah.
system. Yeah, and the daughter was interacting with Facebook, the internet, asking certain questions, and then one day they got mail in for a pregnancy thing because the system knew through predictive whatever she was pregnant. And that's how a lot of that works now. It's just not necessarily they're listening to you like some sort of old school CIA fly listening in everything you do. It's AI. It's crazy.
Yeah, like the FBI can't even get into an iPhone if it's locked. Well, maybe these days, but there were like multiple court cases with Apple from the FBI being like, we need to be able to get into people's phones if it's possibly a criminal. But that's a privacy issue, and like that they can't, like, unless, like, probably these days there's some software that got developed by the FBI so they can still secretly do it in some way, shape, or form. But back then it was genuinely just like, if that phone is locked, it's locked. And I work in a phone store, and a lot of the time when phones come in and they forgot the password on their phone, like the little code, it's impossible to get the data off of that thing at this point. Like, unless you know that code, you need to reset that entire thing and it's all gone.
Well, I believe nowadays they don't necessarily need to go to phone companies directly anymore because with a lot of the apps, let's say Facebook, since we used it, you give permissions to those apps to have access to certain things. When you install an app, like on Android that I use, and you go to the Google Play Store and you say, oh, I want Facebook. And then you install it, and then screen will come up going, these are the permissions we want the app needs. We need your microphone, your camera, your contacts lists. We want your internet data, and it'll tell you everything the app uses. And once you hit OK, terms of service, read them, people. You're allowing those applications access to those things in order for it to run. And therefore, I think maybe there's some backdoor way through like the applications they can view things now. Because I know, like during COVID, there's
But
a
that's
whole
also
bunch of stuff with like governments and social media companies and a whole bunch of weird, wonky stuff with that.
But that's also why I kind of am always kind of hesitant to get any meta products, because a lot of it comes pre-installed with a bunch of things from Facebook and stuff like that that I don't necessarily want or need on it. I think they were talking about releasing a non-meta version of the Quest a while ago, but that was purely for business, and that thing costs like 1,000. But that's just because you're paying off your personal data at that point. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for the fact that they cannot use your data and they sell it. That's why those Quest headsets are so cheap for technically what you get, is because that money they get for that is from all the stuff that you do on it and giving them the data about what you do.
Indeed.
But that's why companies like Pico and stuff are really good again, because they try to actually combat that. They make a similar product without all the bells and whistles that Meta has, and without all the pre-installed, software and things that might be able to track you in that regard.
That and there's some other companies come out with some standalones too, as we mentioned earlier. There's Valve with the Decker that's coming out. You got the XR Elite with Vive, and
Yeah,
Apple
Big Screen Beyond.
Well, these were standalones.
Big Screen Beyond is my favorite. Yeah. Oh,
like
standalone. Yeah.
It's like
but Deckard is not necessarily going to be standalone, they said. The Deckard was a separate project from their standalone headset, from what I've heard. A guy on Twitter replied to some questions saying that the standalone headset was originally in talks, but not currently their focus. They're still just working on the Deckard, which is going to be a PC VR thing. Well, at least that's what they said. Who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us, and like we'll have inside-out tracking on that thing. But I feel like people prefer to have base stations anyway. Still, it's just a tiny bit better, in my opinion.
They're more accurate. From what I've seen with a lot of people with full body and quests, and as soon as you put your hands back here, the hands disappear and go in some weird positions. And at least with the laser tracking, the base stations, you don't have to worry about like it not seeing anything. If you got 2 and it's not enough, you could buy more and cover more of the room. And as long as you don't,
I have 4 downstairs in my VR room, and it's really good. Currently using only 1 here, but like I have 4 downstairs, and I can just turn around. I can run around any like object, and it will still track me perfectly. But also, if you have very specific lighting in your room, like for some reason, for me in my room, if I do have a Quest 2 that I've used a couple of times, it will not track as well. It will just tell me my room is too dark, even though I have the lights turned on to like the max. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. But it's like, if the headset doesn't track, it just goes completely white, and that's really bothersome. But if you have a base station, that barely happens unless you
Mm.
don't face it anymore.
Yeah, and at least with a lot of those base stations and more laser tracked systems for VR, a lot of it's plug and play with Steam. Like it doesn't take very
Mm.
much to get them going, other than having Steam registered exist and there's nothing else. It's not like some of the weird face tracking systems you have to include some line of code, have some funny background system, and then finally it may work if you don't put in the lasers in the wrong position that fry your eyeballs. At least with a lot of things like the base station, it's just plug it in, turn on Bluetooth, ta-da, it works.
Yeah, honestly, the index setup was one of the most well-designed things I've had to unbox in my life. Like the unboxing itself, like the whole packaging and things were really nice. You get very clear instructions with it. You just hang those things on your wall or on your ceiling, or you put them on a little tripod, and then you start up Steam, and even there, it goes step by step in the beautiful Aperture Science style even. It tells you exactly how you set up your headset. And that's just, I mean, that's just what Valve does, I suppose. They don't really like delivering products that are not, ready for the consumer to, use. Except for CS2 currently, I would say. But we don't talk about that.
Yeah. Well, at least the fact that the Valve headset is still one of the most number one sought out headsets within VRChat, at least, it says a testament of the product they build. Whenever the Questie wants to go PC VR or the desktop user, they're not talking about, oh, I want the new Vive or I want the new thing. It's, I need an index now. And it's always the index. Always. Almost, yeah. At least ones I've
The
heard.
index, like, I actually played VR on a Vive MK1 before I ever tried it on an Index, but the jump between like quality was very prominent. Like especially like the controllers, like the fact that you had finger tracking, that alone is something that, Valve somehow managed to make really comfortable. Like the Index knuckles are still my favorite controllers I've ever used in a VR set. And that just shows like they don't just create something and that's it, like it just goes out to the consumers, but they make sure that it's comfortable to use, that I can grab a drink with these things on, for example. They kept like that type of stuff in mind, that you can still sort of use your hands and you're not actually physically holding a controller, but it's more an extension of your body at that point.
Indeed. Well, with that said, I'm going to cut this interview here. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to meet and speak with you. Thank you very much for your
Yeah, for
time,
sure,
Tony.
it's been lovely talking.
Mm,
No worries. It was a great chat. We went
mm,
on for quite long as well.
indeed. Would you like to plug anything for anyone who wants to find you?
Yeah, for sure. Fishbowl, make sure to check us out if you haven't yet. Discord.gg/fishbowl. Every Friday, well, right now, bi-weekly on Friday, we have an event over here in the submarine. We're gonna have the new map in 2024. If you guys are interested in some very fun parties and games and stuff like that, we always have some stuff going on in the server. So make sure to check it out.
Indeed. And with that said, thank you for joining us, folks. Enjoy the rest of your day.